be able to get transcripts there. Again, this will be recorded and it will be made available for y'all on the cms.colorado website. A few things, when you do have a question, make sure that you populate that question in the chat so that we can document it. And as you're joining the space, please mute your microphones to prevent any background. If you do raise your hand, there are going to be some opportunities throughout this conversation today for you to ask your question. So just make sure you raise your hand if you wanted to go ahead and have your question for the group. Do we have any additional questions before we get started? Awesome. So with your permission, I'm going to share my screen. I hope that I get my screen. Alrighty, I think you guys can see my screen. So let's go ahead and get started. As always, we have a few housekeeping items that we want to address. We always have our custom site. It is a cms.colorado.gov, and this is your training resource. All of the questions that you may have, you can find answers there. This is a dynamic site. Content for the D10 platform will be added to that website shortly. And additionally, just make space and take space. We want to make sure that everybody feels welcome to present their feedback. All feedback is important to me, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Alternatively, you can send those to us via our partner support, and you could do that by sending us an email through partnersupport@www.colorado.gov, and the Office of Project Management will get to you in the order in which those are received. But if you have any concerns or questions, please let us know so that we can address those issues. Alrighty. The next thing is our loose agenda. And again, this is a conversation. I know that we want to cover more items, but we want to make sure that we get through these items as we have them listed here. Feel free to raise your hand if you have questions. We will have these bi-weekly until you guys are fed up of me and don't need them anymore. So these are not going to end at the end of the year. These will continue through first quarter and second quarter as needed. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to switch screens for you. One moment, please. And this here, if you can see my screen, is our website. It is cms.colorado.gov, and I am authenticated. I am logged in as an authenticated user. We have some visual indicators that I am logged in, like my little avatar here with my user. If I were to click here, I have the option to log off of the platform. Francisco New. And if you guys don't mind muting your environment as you log in, that would be very much appreciated. But when you are on your particular website, what you want to do is just enter the word user at the end of your URL, and you can leverage your single sign-on if you're using Google, or if you prefer to use user and password, you could do so. For the sake of the example, I'm just going to use my Google single sign-on, and I'm going to select my eGov here, and it's going to take me to what we call, what you guys call the back end. This is what you will see when you log into the Drupal 10 or Drupal 9 platform. This is what we will land. It will have your user, and you will have some options to edit your profile here. So if you needed to make any changes, and I know I didn't cover this in the previous training, so I'm making sure that I cover it here. This is where you could do password changes and that type of deal. Okay. Now, in addition to that, we have another visual indicator. Is this black bar tells me that I am signed in. And here you have a secondary bar. These are the two items that we refer to as our admin menus. If I had items that I frequent a ton, I could definitely star those, and that would add it to the shortcuts. And the shortcuts is this little star with the link to the shortcuts there. Again, we could still toggle like we did in Drupal 9. We could toggle these menus off and on, and these modules are very simple. This is your profile, these are your shortcuts, and this is where you can manage your website. Now, you will be wondering, why do I have all of these different tabs? The tabs or the options that are in your administrative menu correspond to the roles that have been assigned to you by the entity project manager. Okay, so yours are going to look different than mine based on the assignments that you have been given at your organization. Alrighty, but just to keep us honest, I'm going to click back to what our agenda is, because the first thing that we want to make sure is that we know that we are authenticated users. Then we're going to jump into the content module. But I noticed that in previous sessions, I did not talk about the people module, and this is one that a lot of people utilize because in this particular environment, most of you guys are going to be the user administrators, the entity project managers. So very quickly, we're going to see that this module here is the people module. And those of you who are user administrators will have access to this. And this is where you could basically moderate the status of the users on the platform. You can assign different roles and you can make those accounts blocked or active based on the assignment and the time frames that that person will be onboarded or not on a project or whatever the case is. Now, if you needed to remove temporarily privileges to a user, you could do that by selecting the cancel user. We always ask that you reach out to us when you are canceling accounts or blocking accounts to ensure that the integrity of the content is there. So again, this is the people module. And these are your options here. You have the statuses, the roles, and the permissions. Then here at the bottom, this is just like in Drupal 9, you have your options for different actions to execute. These on the table are sortable. This is just a table. You could just sort however you wanted to sort these here. And to make sure that you could do those edits, that is on your operations on the far right. Okay. All right. So we did cover the people module. The second thing we want to do is go into content. The content module used to have a drop down menu. Now that's something that we did ask our team to bring later on in Drupal 10, but for you to access your media library and to start to create content, you want to click on the content module. Now within your content module, this is what we refer to as the media library. And depending on the display of your device, you will have either all of your little folder tabs here. If you don't show them, because I have an extra wide monitor for trainings, I usually get these little ellipses. Now, if I click on the ellipses, all of the different folder tabs are going to show from my media library. So I just wanted to address this because this came in the partner support. And I think this is a great forum to address those questions because they're coming to us through partner support. If your display is really wide, you might get this little, you have to click on the ellipses to see the other folders. You will see that this shape here where it says content is like one big folder tab. Just click here and you will have the other ones. Does that make sense? It is just a display thing. They haven't gone away. They're just hidden under those little ellipses right there. All right. So in the media library, you have all of these different options. These are the different sections or areas within your media library. The first one that we're going to look at is content. Content happens to be the default when you tab into the module. Okay. So if I click on content, my default is going to be content. Now, again, the parameters are here for you to sort the content that has already been created. You have content type. You will notice that the layout is the new content type that we have just introduced. We will continue to introduce more content types and more features as we can start this journey and continue through this journey through Drupal 10. Now, the publication state is something that you could sort, and this is just that moderation status, published or unpublished. Languages, this is not used at all because they're all by default in this particular language. But if you wanted to see the content that has been authored by a particular operator, you will see that our names, usernames will populate here. Okay, so if you wanted to sort the table by all of the content that I have created on this particular website, you could do that by the person who authored it. You can apply the filter. You have actions. These actions pertain to the different content items that are in this table, but those actions cannot be undone. So all that says is that if you delete a page, we cannot retrieve it. It's super deleted, it's gone. So be very careful when you're deleting content, okay? Just like with the people module, this at the bottom is a table, and you will find some things that are familiar. These are all sortable headers on your table. And as always, or as usual, we will have our operations at the far right. So if you wanted to edit a piece of content, you have two options. You could click on the link that will take you to the actual content, where you can edit from the UI view, from the user interface, from the user view. This is what you guys refer to as the web view. So from the web view, you're going to have some options here to make edits to your page. Excuse me. Alternatively, you could go back into your media library, and instead of clicking on the item, you could go over to your far right and you could edit, and it would take you to the back end. And these are the same features that you have from many, many years. Okay. Now, from here, if you wanted to view this page not in the back end, what you do is you just click back on the View tab on this ribbon here. You click on the View tab, and you're going to get that web view. Again, you got to call it the web view. This is, you could just click on the back end. You could toggle back and forth and have the same experience. Okay. Now, when we click back into the content module to access your media library, this is where you will create the content pieces, what we refer to are structures that are native to the website. When you click on Add Content, there will be a list of all of the different content types that you can start to develop and build here. We have alerts, which are those banners that go across the top of your website. We have the traditional articles. These are news articles, blogs, press releases. We have a basic page, which you're very familiar with. We have contact cards, events, jumbo slides, landing page, and this is where you will locate the new content type, which is the layouts. In addition, we have localities and news feeds. When we are creating a basic page, what you want to do is just select that basic page. And the only required field is the title. There is a correlation between the title and what the node will be. So if we're going to say, sample basic page, and today is 06, December 23rd. Okay, that is the only required field. From here, you have your WYSIWYG. On the WYSIWYG, you have the traditional or a custom features. You have your link it feature. You have the ability to create an anchor. You have Font Awesome, in which you could just add different types of icons that are empowered by Font Awesome. We have the pro version. It's Font Awesome 6. So if there are Font Awesome icons that you want to leverage, you could just search them from here. So for instance, if I wanted to do book, all of the different versions of book that are available to us would appear here, and we could go ahead and format from there. In addition, you have the option to insert tables. You have the option to leverage accordions and all sorts of things. A few things, rows and cards are still here. For the row, it's just like a bookshelf. You could format the row. You could determine what you want your row to display like. And onto this row, you could add kind of like books on a shelf. You could add different cards. If you wanted to add different types of cards with different functionalities, you could do that, including web forms, contacts, and even maps. For the sake of the example, we're just going to add a basic card, and we're going to steal similar and ipsum from here. And we're just going to populate that in the basic card. And that's pretty much it. If you wanted to import images, you could do so from here. And the image could be resized by pulling in the boundaries of the image. One thing to note is that the dimensions of the image will be pointed out on the very top right corner. So as I pull it in, it's telling me this one is still 1024. But as I continue to pull it in, you will see the dimensions of your image from here. All right. If I wanted to add another card, I could do that by selecting a card from this drop down, and I can add a map. Here, this is all similar to what we had in Drupal 9 because these are still rows and cards with a paragraph. Now, for your publishing on the very far right, this is where you can leverage your revision logs. If you are communicating internally with your team and you wanted to leave messages to individuals to know when the content needs to be updated or this needs to be removed no later than, or whatever the log is for your internal team, you can leverage this revision log section here. Menu settings can still be added at the page level. By clicking here, you will have access to the structure module and all of the menus that have been created there. Again, this is optional. You don't have to add menu links, but if you wanted to access the structure menus, you will access those in this little drop down right here. The meta was added. I know we had a question in the early days before the upgrade if meta was coming over, but all the meta is here. And then you have the ability to sitemap. All of these features got added. So it is a seamless experience on the paragraphs side of the house. For URL aliases, say that sample is not the title that I want to give it. I could deselect the automatic function of generating URLs, and then I could populate whatever the naming convention or the name for this particular URL will look like. And then here is the authoring information that we refer to. This is Cecilia.Hemley as a user has created 221 pages, and this is what is going to pull up in the media library as a page that I would have authored. And then I think at the bottom, the only thing that we wanted to point out is that your moderation state is defaulted to the draft. But if you wanted to have a preview, you can always preview the page here. And it will have this pink background where it will tell you what the picture will look like. This is not a good example because my picture is way too big and I haven't resized it. But you could go back to editing the content and make the necessary changes that you need to make sure that your page is rendering correctly. Well, I didn't add any text to the accordion, so that's why there's nothing to expand. But these are all of the functions that you will have on rows and cards that we had in Drupal 9 that are now displaying in Drupal 10. Okay, so let's go back to our agenda real quick. Let me just have a look at time. All right, so basic page and landing page are going to look exactly the same. When I go into, and this one I'm not going to save because we have, I'm trying to make sure that I don't have too much content to this website to clean later. But if I wanted to look at the basic pages that we have created, I could sort by basic page. And the last time that we did this training, we did create some basic pages and they're here for us to review. Now, in adding a landing page, the process will look exactly the same. We will click on the pill menu that reads add content. And from here, off of this list of options, I'm going to select landing page. Remember, the difference between the basic page and the landing page is the ability to have a Jumbotron and a footer. For this one, you could just jump right into rows and cards. There is not a body field in your landing page. Okay, so for Jumbotron options, you could just look at the sliders that you have already created, or you could just ad hoc, just go ahead and add one right there and then with Jumbotron Now, which will point to your particular device to add the image. The relationships is if you have already created those meta tags, you can make those relationships there. But this is what your landing page looks like. And then here on the very far right-hand side, you will have the revisions log and all of the items that we looked at when we were looking at the basic page. Now, before we move into layouts, Brian, do we have any questions in the chat? Do we have any raised hands?
Yeah, we do have a few questions. We have some questions regarding change in functionality for links in setting the target. So if you could also go through how people can set the target now within the source, I think that would be helpful for some of the questions I'm seeing in the chat, as well as how to set a email link.
Yeah, let me do that real quick. So let me go into the content. Basic page. And this one we're going to call testing links. And then I'm going to say anchor text. I think I'm drawing a blank because this one we were doing on the source. Brian, do you remember for the target to open? I know I have instructions for this. We added through the source. I'll circle back and send you guys instructions for this one because I'm for some reason drawing a blank. Not like I stare at this all day. But for creating a link, you would, before we had two different chain link icons, now it's combined. So for linking to the URL, if you know of a page that already exists, so you can start to type and it will provide you the media library, right? We had in the Drupal 9 experience it was very confusing. We had one for the media library and one for your URLs that are relative path and absolute path. But here, when you start to populate the word, you could do both. So you could just, it will show you the media library items that you have here that are content. Additionally, as I scroll down to the bottom, I have the ability to link to files that are in the media library and media. Okay, so this would have been the second of the two little icons that we had. However, if I wanted to do another type of link, here is where I would do the the absolute path, and I'm gonna try to do cms.colorado.gov. So let me do demo. Brian, can you remind me, how was it that we had the instructions for people to do the target?
It's
So
in the
once
chat.
you save that link there,
Yeah.
you would open up the source after that link has been created.
Yep.
And then you would need to add an additional to that A tag there after the href. That would
Mhm.
say target equals quote underscore blank quote. And that would actually be with right before that
Before this one.
greater than symbol, Cecilia.
Okay. Yeah. So after the ref, before the greater.
Right before the greater than. So after that final quote there, before that greater than
There
symbol.
we go. There we go.
Yep.
There we go. Make this a little bit bigger because I'm blind. There we go. And then
Yep,
it
right
was
there.
underscore and then close quote.
Underscore blank.
There we go.
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah, this is a little snippet. Okay, yeah, I gotta put this in a document and share with all. Thank you, Brian. You
Yep.
have saved the day. But that is how we do the anchor text and how we do linking to the media library. And then when we save this page, we're gonna test it so that you can actually see it opening in a new window. What was the third? There were three things in that question, right? We wanted to do, how do we use the linkage functionality? How do we do
Yes,
a
people are
target
also
blank?
wanting to know how to link to emails, which for that, once you start creating that email using that link button, you should be able to enter the words mail to,
That's the mail
all
to.
lowercase, no spaces, exactly.
So that would be Cecilia Henley.
I have a quick question about
Yes.
the mail to, because we've done that, but then the link shows up and it says mail to and then the email address. So just like, personally, I don't think that looks good on a website. So is that function going to change where it can drop down and be an email as well again?
Allison, quick question for you. Are you entering text prior to and then highlighting it and setting the link for that text? Because kind of what it sounds like you may be doing is just using that link button without having entered text or highlighted text prior to, and then it would show that text on the screen. Really what you would want to do is type out the email address, highlight it, use that link option, and then do what Cecilia is doing here with that mail to, and then the actual email address so that they're not actually seeing that. Setting this mail to should just on the back end link it to their email client on their computer.
Okay,
does that make sense?
Yeah, it hasn't been our experience, but we'll try again.
Okay.
Yeah,
one
but
other.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I see it in the chat box and a couple of questions from my team. Is this going to change to where the anchor, like the target, can be edited on the WYSIWYG, or is that always going to have to be through the source code? Like, are we required to know source now?
No, there is a ticket for our developers. Our software engineers are working through all of the requests and feedback that is coming through partner support. So there is a request for us to look at it, but in the meantime, this is how we are addressing the anchor text. We also have some questions about best practices for accessibility and that type of thing. So this is a larger conversation, Allison, and we have a few people already reporting and requesting this, so it's on our radar. And that's why we did provide the little snippet for people to be able to add it to the source.
Okay.
So I still feel like there were three things on that. I think I'm missing something, Brian. Anchor text, email, and something else?
The target, which we already talked about.
Which we already talked about. Okay.
Yep. So I think we have that covered. We have a few questions in here about button functionality, which, just to clarify, is currently has been removed from the platform, but is another item that we're looking to add back in.
Yes, that one is in the backlog. That is something that we're going to be executing after we finish the entire upgrade process. So yes, that one we have had, I think it's about 4 requests in partner support. So we got that feedback. I think this shows a little icon right there, and we're gonna test it. And it went out to demo, and you see it's another, and I'm back to my original environment. And I don't think that you can see it, but that little sound opened up email Outlook for me on another window. So that we tested, that's how we do those. Brian, do you have additional questions or things that we could demo real quick for the users?
I'm looking through questions really quick. A lot of questions are just kind of regarding if functionality is still there. Like one here I have, for example, does the resizing feature work across all of the types of contents? I saw Cecilia dragging it bigger and smaller. It doesn't seem like I'm able to do that in an article/blog.
Let me have a look because we did meet yesterday with one of the developers, and she added that it was a very easy fix. Let me see real quick if I could just create an article and insert an image. And let me go in here, find that generic image, and I'm going to pull these boundaries in for you. So it's working here for me. And I know I have to add the, this is a sunset. Let me add this real quick. And it's telling me here what it is. So right now I'm at 500 and it tells me 551. And this is an article. I wonder, could we double check what type of article are you creating?
Yeah, it was Sonia who was asking that. Article blog.
Okay, so I have testing image, blog post. We have the quote. I guess let me make this a published page for you, Sonia. Just to test to see if it will keep those segments of about 550. But if it does not on your end, could you send me that URL that you're looking at? Yeah, I have to flush the image cache for this page because it is here problematic. So this is one that we have to, I'm going to write this up and we will give this to our software engineers, our Drupal developers to look at. Okay, guys? So yes, this one here, there are some things that I could do. I'm not going to take your time doing it, but we could look at the images and flush those. That's not something that you could do with your users. So we appreciate if you are experiencing these issues with your images, please report it to partner support so that we could clear cache on your site. And hopefully your image will display as expected. If not, it might be symptomatic of a larger issue. And we want to make sure that we document and mitigate all of those. I see a thumbs up. Thank you so much. So I'm going to be on the lookout for that partner support, Sonia, if you don't mind. That way I could just create report the issue and then attach your report to it so we can circle back once the issue has been resolved. Okay. Do we have additional questions or are we ready to look at layouts? I think
I think we're good to move to layouts. We can follow back up with additional questions if you look back through and see that some haven't been answered.
Hold on one second. Oh. Can we actually address Francie's question about the hover state in the editor?
The hover state in the editor? Could you let me get that question 1 second?
Yes. So links are only underlined in the hover state in the editor, but will it also underline when the page is published?
Yeah, Francie, I think you had put in a ticket to partner support on this, and it's been added to our development backlog. From my understanding, it wasn't affecting public user interaction with web pages. So it is lower on our development backlog, but it is something that we will look to troubleshoot and research further.
Yeah, Francie, just to add to that, we do know that that's still there. Also, we know that kind of links over to accessibility issues as well. So When we say it's lower priority, it just means that the team's focused on higher priority issues right now. Doesn't mean it's not important. And we'll update you as we have an outlook for the fix.
No worries.
you.
I was more so just wanted to point that out for people that might have stumbled across that and been confused as I was.
Mhm.
But the important thing is it is underlined when it is published.
Yes, got it. All right, so, and we could circle back to this. We're kind of halfway through our meeting, so I wanted to make sure that I go through the layout and the sections and blocks for y'all. This is a larger meeting than usual, so I'm guessing there are people who haven't seen this content before, and I want to make sure that we cover it. So a few things. You notice that when I'm in my media library, I have all of my tabs. Here, this is the media library. I'm going to add a content type, and I'm going to select the layout. Now, I wanted to acknowledge that the layout here is confusing some individuals because it is the same label, the same word for two totally different things. This here is your templates, but in Drupal 9, templates were called layouts, okay? So when you're in your media library and you look at your blocks and you look at your media, you're also going to see a tab that is labeled layouts. And this particular layout is not a content type. It is a section within your media library that contains all of the templates that you have created. Okay. Now, when I want to create a new content that happens to be a layout, I want to go content. I want to go into the media library. The default is the content tab, and I want to select the blue pill button to add content. Now, once I'm here, I'm going to scroll down through all of my options, and I'm going to select layouts. And again, the only required field is the title. So we're going to do sample layout. And let's call this one 06 December 23rd. Okay. Here is where you would have your content type features. If you wanted to leverage a featured image, you could pull from your media library here. This is the CK editor, what we call the WYSIWYG. And these are the features that we just explored in your in your rows and cards. One thing that I wanted to point out is that different than the rows and cards, the default state is the published state. So if you are still working on this page and it's not ready for prime time, please deselect or uncheck the published button, and it will keep it in a draft state for you. And again, I wanted to point this out because this is a departure from the Drupal 9 experience in which the default was the draft moderation state. Excuse me. So once I determine if I want to publish or draft, I'm just going to hit save. Oh, before we go further, I'm going to say this again, but it's familiar, right? All of your revision log, your menu settings are available here if you wanted to create this particular content type that is called a layout to a menu. By clicking here, you will have access to your structure menus that you will get from here. Okay. It's all familiar. If you wanted to change the URL, that is here. The authoring information will still be here and all of that good stuff. Okay. So now that I have the only required field, I'm going to hit save, and this will be in a published status. Now, you will notice that you get this little green banner of success that tells you that your layout was created. And there is nothing in the section because I didn't add any content. But if I were to go into here and steal some of this copy, I could put it in here and make my edits to the body from this section. Just like in rows and cards, you will edit the body from the edit feature, and then you go in layouts and you will do similar to your rows and cards, you will get your layouts here. So the reason why we're adding some text here is so that you can visually see this is where you add the body. The body will be just like in your paragraphs, rows and cards at the top, and then your sections with your blocks will be underneath. So it's just the same. You will read these features from left to right like a book, and you will read them top to bottom. So I'm going to hit save, and you're going to notice the difference here. There is my little bit of text. On this ribbon, you have similar functions than with paragraphs, rows, and cards, but your layouts will be the fourth option, and you're going to see this different display. This is your layout builder. Okay. Now, if you wanted to go back to edit the body, you will click on edit and it will take you back to where we just were, okay? So you could see this here is the body and it's always going to stack on top. If I wanted to add a section, I will select, oh, and one thing I wanted to point out is that how you know a section is different is that you have a configure section 1 and then you have a dashed line that would wrap around that particular section. Now, if I wanted to add a section, I will click on this plus section option and I will have the ability to select different options or formats for my section. This is similar to when we had the row distribution with our rows and cards. So I'm trying to make a connection to what you are used to and what is new. If I wanted to have a single column, it would just wrap between the boundary to boundary of your display. If it's on a mobile phone or a tablet or a desktop. Now, if I select 2 columns, it will then provide me with the option of distributing the weight of those columns, the width rather, and I could do one little skinny row, one little skinny column and one chunky one, or you could just leave them 50-50 and that's the deal. Does that make sense? Okay, so now that I have added my section, I have the 2 columns and they're distributed equally. To add a block, what I want to do is click on this plus add block link, and I have the ability to insert all of these type of blocks. For the moment, these are the ones we have. In the future, if there are requests for additional, we can continue to develop and build, but just to show you the basic block, you will add the title. I think I used that already, sample block. 001. All right. And you can indicate if you want for the title to save, to display or not. In this particular case, so that you can see where it will be, I'm just going to have it display the title. And this is different from when you had rows and cards. For this one, this is a mandatory field because these are all aggregated and you will have access to these to use them repeatedly. Now in your WYSIWYG, you can add all of these. You could do ordered or simple list. You could have formats for centered, justify left or right. You have all of these different options, and you do have the option to view the source from here. You have the option to add, insert a table. This one wasn't in the previous WYSIWYG. People had to put it in the source, but you have a horizontal line for those who are interested in doing that. To divide content visually, you could just insert the horizontal line straight from here. And then you have your formats here. You could have your quotes, and you have font awesome. So for font awesome, if I wanted to do, this is recognizable. Let's go ahead and do this one here, Airbnb. That's one that people could recognize. You can enter your font awesome here, and then you could determine where do you want it to go. You can actually determine the size of this particular icon if you want it to be 4 times and all the way. So if you want it, let me get the little snippet of text from here real quick so that we can add it for you. And there's our text. Okay. I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to apply any color, but you could apply a border. There are different widths to your border. Just going to add a simple border so that you can see where the boundary of this block would be. And if you wanted for those to be rounded, this is something that we had a request in partner support. So we just added this last week. And then shadows, because I have a border, I'm not going to add a shadow, but I'm going to add this block so that we could have a look here. There is the rounded corner and there is the 0.1 and there is your font awesome and there is the quote. If I wanted to add a secondary block, I could do that by clicking on this plus add block. I could go to create a content block and then let us do a simple map. Here we could do simple, let's just call this simple map 001. I have to do some cleanup because we have used these examples so many times that my titles are going to start to hit against each other. And I'm not going to apply a color because this is the Google Maps that will display here. But if I wanted to add the border, I could do that. If I wanted to add the shadow, these are the styles of that were requested, and we added those in here. So I'm going to hit add block. I'm going to select this option, and it's going to display here. So you see how you have that little border, you can see it now clearly, and then you have the simple map on the other side. If I wanted to add an additional section, I could just do the plus section, and then I'm going to go ahead and add that here. And for this one, since a lot of the agencies use YouTube for their meetings and that type of display of content, we're going to go into YouTube and we're going to embed. So we're going to grab this little snippet of iframe, and we're going to go back over here. And in this section, I'm going to add a block. But this particular block that we're going to use is going to be an open embed. Now, this could be utilized for your Google Documents. This could be anything that you're bringing from elsewhere. And I guess she was made Times Person of the Year 2023, right? So let's go ahead and get Taylor Swift in there, or whomever this is. I thought this was, let me just call this YouTube. So we're going to go ahead and insert. If you wanted to apply a background, those are options that are for you. I would not, just to make sure that there aren't any accessibility issues with the background of the image, or that they don't fight against each other. But if you still wanted to add like a border, these are your options here. I'm going to go ahead and add the block, and there is your block. You could potentially, if you change your mind and you wanted to move these, when I hover over the block, I have these 4 directional arrows. It will allow me to move the block to another column, or alternatively, I can move it to another section right here. So for you to see what this looks like now, I'm going to make my screen a little bit smaller. So I took the block that was in this column and moved it over, and then I took the map and moved it to the bottom. If I wanted to take this one and move it to the first position, I could do that without having to recreate the row and the card. So this is for people who need to move content quickly, I think this is I really enjoy this feature. But yes, this is what we have thus far. I'm going to save the layout so that we can view this. And this is the page that we have created together. Again, this label is showing because I am authenticated, but your end user will not see this label for private or public. You will just see the page with the border, with the font awesome, and with the embedded content. I'm trying to slow down a little bit because I know I talk fast, but does this make sense? Is this helpful? Do we have questions in the chat, Brian or Alexa? I see a raised hand. Who's?
Yeah, this is Antoinette. I was wondering about the WYSIWYG editor in the layout builder. So if you go into the layout builder and if you go to the layout and try to edit the block, if you look at the real estate under the source, there's just not a lot of wiggle room in there. I was wondering if there's a way to like expand the real estate. So if you like the sample block, take that for example, if you just go under there, and if you click on the source, you see there's just, is there a way to like expand that?
I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, and it doesn't have the okay, yep. All right. Yep, definitely. Because this should be further down. Thank you so much, Antoinette, for reporting this. Yep,
Sure.
absolutely. Let me take a All righty, that is wonderful feedback. Yeah, I did not notice that that was an issue, but definitely we're going to be reporting this one back to our developers so that we can make sure that it's displaying the entire, or that it has at least the ability to expand.
That'd
Do
be
we have-
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I would do is I will circle back. So if you don't mind popping that in partner support, that creates a ticket. And then I could circle back to you when it's already released to all 500 plus sites, so that I could close that loop for you.
Sure.
Brian, do we have additional questions or additional hands raised?
Yeah, we do have another hand raised.
Is the name-
Ramin, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah, that's me. Thank you. So yeah, I just have a question with regards to whether or not if Drupal 10, that's the version we are on moving into, right? So if Drupal 10 is going to have any issues with iframes or embedded content, because we have on our web pages in chat, we have a map that is embedded as an iframe and also a calendar scheduling system. So have you guys noticed anything as far as iframes issues or embedded content issues?
No, not at the moment, Ramin. We haven't had any reports of challenges with Open Embed. We have tested the most frequently used Open Embeds, which it tends to be a lot of videos. But if you have a specific iframe that you want to send to us, just go ahead and put it in partner support at www.colorado.gov so that I could test it for you in different sites, since I have the ability to test on multiple sites. And I could circle back to you and provide you URLs for you to test on your end. But it would be a matter of going into the layout builder functions and utilizing. I would not leverage the basic, because a lot of times if we're leveraging the wrong or not the most adequate or appropriate feature, that's when we have problems, or it becomes a little bit messy. But if we are using the Open Embed block, that block lends itself to display those iframes. So when you create a content block, do me a favor and use the Open Embed instead of the basic block.
Open embed block, got it. And then, excuse me, did you say if there's an issue, where should I report it again?
It is partner support. It's going to come at the end of the presentation, but it's partner
Oh, okay.
support at www.colorado.gov, and that is our feedback tool for all of the Drupal users and all of the solutions that we offer here at Tyler, Colorado. So if
Got
you have any questions, please send us a ticket. And if it is something that we need to develop further, like the content, the space what Antoinette just shared with us, we will make sure to circle back with you so that we could close that, come full circle for you.
And one last question. Sorry, I don't mean to take too much of your everybody's
No.
time, but so quickly, have we already moved into like upgraded the Drupal software, or is this like something that is planned? And sorry if I'm asking a question that is kind of obvious to everybody else, but I just don't know.
No, I mean, that is a totally valid question, and no, don't ever apologize for your feedback or for your questions. We have migrated all of our sites from Drupal 9 to Drupal 10.
Oh, okay.
So yes, if you wanted to, do you mind if I ask which agency or which website you're working with?
Sure. I'm with CDPHE Vital Records,
Yeah.
chat division.
So CDPHE moved the week of the 22nd, November 21st, right, Dave? I think, yeah. CDPHE moved November 21st or November 22nd. So if Josie is your point of contact, definitely we send notifications to Josie and the leadership about the successful upgrade of that particular website and all of the CDPHE related websites.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm going to be looking out for that message, Ramin, so that we could come full circle on you too, okay?
Sure. And I'm saying, let me unraise my hand here. So there we go. Yeah.
All right. Do we have additional questions?
Cecilia, there is one question in the chat about editing existing blocks within layouts. If you could show that off on how to do that.
Yep, absolutely. So the existing, tell me more, the existing blocks that were built with rows and cards or the,
In layout specifically, so
Okay.
editing any of those blocks that you've already added. I think they just want to make sure the interface, since it's a little different with layouts on how to edit that
Yeah.
existing content.
that is fair. That is fair. So this is the page we just created. This is December 6th, December 23rd. We just created this together. You will see that as you hover over your block, right? On the very top right corner, you're going to see this icon of a pencil. And when it is hover state, it is a little bit darker. This is where you could go ahead and configure your block and make the edits that are necessary. I'm going to repeat that on another block. So I'm going to click out of it real quick. I'm going to scroll to this one. This one was created as the body. So for the body, you want to go over to the edit and make those edits here. For the ones that are in the sections and blocks, you will go into the layouts. You want to scroll to the desired block and you want to do this pencil. This is your edit feature. You want to hover over it. When it changes to the active state, just click on it and you want to do configure. And this will bring out the options that you have for editing. And if you scroll down a little bit, your styles will be at the bottom. When you execute a change, you're able to update. And then you want to scroll back to the top and you want to make sure to save the work. Does that completely answer your question to the person who reported?
It looks like Kayla responded back to that saying that when they press configure, it does not show the pop-up with text box as shown here in the example. I'm wondering if that's due to the type of block that's being added to the page.
Could they clarify which block so that we could recreate it here?
Yeah,
I wonder
Kayla,
if it's
if
the
you
body.
don't mind.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, I thought I was doing it as just that simple block. I think that's what you have shown. And it doesn't pop up with that text box. It just has, when you scroll under, when you press configure and it has like the, Cecilia, can you scroll up to that, I think it's sample box 2 or sample box 001. And then when you go into the configure right there.
Here?
Yeah.
And I click configure.
Yeah. So for me, it just it doesn't have this WYSIWYG box with the text. It just has background color and all of those options. It doesn't show me the body.
So your CK editor, which is body, this is not populating, but you're getting strictly styles here at the bottom.
Correct.
Okay. Could you do me a favor? Was it
Kayla.
Kayla, could you send me the URL that for that particular node and just make sure you send it to partner support. That way I could have a look and see if there is something off with it, and then we could just have the developers look at it. So if it's beyond my know-how, I'll just put in a ticket with the developers. But you should, on clicking that configure option, have the ability to see the CK editor and the styles at the bottom. So this is not usual. This is something we need to address.
Okay, thank you. Because yeah, my workaround yesterday was to delete the block and then make a new one, but then I realized the title also wasn't allowing me to use the same title, and it said it was already in use. So yeah, okay, thank you.
Yes, no, absolutely. I'm going to be looking out for that message. So I have 3 people that are going to be sending me tickets for me to look at. Okay. So I'm going to be looking out for that one, Kayla.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Do we have any additional questions or feedback?
Does look like we have a couple of hands raised.
it.
Ellen, it looks like you're first. Go ahead. You're muted, Ellen.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
Ellen.
we can. Perfect.
Okay, sorry, I thought you were gonna unmute me. I have this in chat already, but so I just wonder when you're gonna come out with a downloadable user guide.
Yeah, that is our next phase for this, and that is the user guide that we had was out of date, so we deleted, we removed that from the CMS website. But yes, the training materials are being worked on as we continue to develop the platform. But yes, that is coming soon. I unfortunately don't have an ETA for that, Ellen, but I'm definitely, we're working on this.
Okay, because I've worked with you before, Cecilia.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and you were very helpful. I tried to figure these things out by myself, but I'm more of a visual person, and so I made. I still feel like there are questions that I have that haven't been answered, but you know, I'll try to look back through the video again, but you know, and what I need to do is really pretty simple, but yeah, I still am not quite sure I understand.
Ellen, what I would do is this, let us set up a one-on-one session in which you come with your questions and you and I will have kind of like a war room session and we will address every single question you have. Okay? So Brian, remind me to send Ellen my availability link. So you could schedule something at a time that is convenient for you and your team, and we would just get all of your questions answered in one session. So you feel empowered to make the changes that you need to make on your website.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
My pleasure. Absolutely.
Like the next hand raise we have is Sonia.
Hi, Sonia.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Okay, so can you just walk me through where I select the layout? I just need to understand how to or where the so I went to content and selected layout, and then I'm trying to figure out how to insert the blocks or get something to happen other than I have, you know, I have the featured image, but the image is not featuring, and I have the body summary. Is there someplace else that I'm supposed to be looking for? Because I don't have anything across the top like you do. I don't have options like that. I just have title and body.
Okay. So what we're going to do, content, media library, we're going to add content. We're going to select the layout.
Right.
I apologize.
That's okay. I thought it was my computer. I was like, wait a minute. Oh, what was that? Let's see.
I'm sorry. That was just me. I apologize.
Oh. Content.
We're going to call this one. So that's our title.
Okay.
And you can add a blurb here or not.
Okay.
And you want to save it. So after you hit save, Sonia, the node is created.
Oh.
And now that you have the node, you're going to view a
That's
ribbon.
where everything is. Okay. That's the part I was missing. Thank you.
You are very welcome. Do we have additional questions? Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, I have a quick question. Sorry. And it's just because it's about this. So then when you click on edit, it'll give you the body. But then if you add anything else over in layout, when you go back to edit, you don't see it there. Is that correct?
Not quite. Let us look at the one that we did a few minutes before. So when you're here and you click on the edit, it will show you pretty much, remember when we had the rows and cards, this is where your body is. So think about this as the body. And then think about this as that little rows and cards tab that we used to have back in the day. That's where you're going to see your layout. And they're going to stack different than rows and cards. Here you're going to see whatever's in the body. And it will say configure section 1. And then section 2 and the subsequent sections will be the ones that you will be adding in the layout builder. So
Okay.
to circle back, this first section is in the edit view. That's your body.
Okay.
And then the remainder of the sections, if you choose to leverage sections and blocks, will be here in Layout Builder. However, you could create your entire page. If it's a simple page that doesn't need sections and blocks, much like what we did with the paragraph, rows, and cards, you can leverage just this section and create the whole page here, if you choose to do so. However, if you wanted to take advantage of the sections and the blocks and all of the no-code solutions, you could just go here and you can add those sections and include those blocks.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that answer your question, Carrie?
Yes. I have a lot of other questions, but it answered that question. So thank you.
Carrie, if you want to schedule a session, just let us know. We'll send you the availability link and we will sit down with the team and we will address all of the questions.
That's amazing. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Do we have any additional questions?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if everyone should have this layout builder view, because I don't have this as an option.
So let me clarify. When you go to content,
yes,
and you add content, you do not have layouts?
No, so I have it there. So if I click layouts and then like create a title, save it. Then I don't have that like kind of like block builder or anything like that.
So we create the page, we create the node by entering the required field. It is published and I hit save. And after I am so sorry.
You're fine. But yeah, so it's here that I don't have that layout option.
Okay, I need to know, Kelsey, what is your website? Because this is how all of the layout builders look. So if you don't mind, send me an email through partnersupport@www.colorado.gov and send me the URL of the node that you have created, because this is not typical behavior.
Okay.
And when we tested after the upgrade, that is one of the features that we tested. So we need to know exactly what URL,
okay,
what your website is, and the node that you have created that is not displaying this layout, because that is not that's not typical. It's very weird.
No, that makes sense. Because I'm with CDPHE, but our office has a different URL. It's actually CDPHE-LPHA. So that our URL may have just gotten missed. So I'll email you right after this. Thank you.
I think you went on the 21st of November, but yes, I'm going to be looking out for that email as well. Do we have any additional questions or feedback? And I do apologize. I'm very sorry. Brian, do you see anything in the chat, or Alexa, if you see anything there?
Brian had to step away. There are a couple questions. I am going to note them, and then Cecilia, if you can follow up with these individuals after today's discussion.
Okay,
that'd be
wonderful.
Great. Thank you.
So I think we are at time. Is there any feedback from Dave or from Alexa for the larger group?
No, just this is David Wiedemeyer, I'm Director of Operations for Tyler, Colorado. For the folks who are still on, just a real quick comment. We really appreciate your patience through the upgrade. It's a lot of work for everybody involved out there among you, the content managers and folks who are leaders within your own organizations, for other people who are working on websites. We really appreciate all your diligence and getting in there and learning the upgrade, as well as communicating with us, as Cecilia's mentioned, to provide us feedback and, importantly, report issues you're experiencing. It's our objective to remediate those issues as quickly and effectively as we can. It's not our intention for you to have to work with workarounds or hold off on functionality. for undue periods of time. But that is our primary focus at this point, is making sure that those open issues that you've submitted to us are addressed and remediated as quickly as possible, so that you have a full and robust experience on D10. Then we'll start working into areas where we can start to improve the experience for you. And as Cecilia mentioned, we have an ongoing commitment to training and support where we can use best practices to help you actually leverage D10 and instead of just trying to figure out how to bridge the old to the new, actually take advantage of it and have a great experience on the platform. So appreciate your patience, appreciate your contribution to the process and your continued communication with us.
Thank you so much, Dave, for that. I know that we are a little bit over time, but our next meeting will be in 2 weeks, and our power user group is scheduled for the 13th of December. So I'm going to be sending out a meeting notification to all of you. We look forward to seeing you there. Again, it is a link that you could share with all of those in your team that would like to participate of the Drupal Power Users group. Again, it will take place on the 13th of December at 10 a.m. And the week after, we're going to have our regular training session. These will continue through first quarter. If you need more, they will continue. If you wanted to do a one-on-one session with me, please have a look at partner support. Send me a request and I will send you my link to my availability. I really appreciate your feedback. Through feedback, we grow, and we want to make sure that this becomes a collaborative environment where we take feedback and we improve Drupal 10 in the upcoming weeks and months. So again, thank you so very much for being here. If you have additional questions, please send me those through partner support at www.colorado.gov. I really appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your week.